The first time I truly felt invisible, I was 8 years old, standing in our hallway lined with Sophia's trophies while my mother angled the camera for the perfect light on her sister's newest crown. My own science fair ribbon, blue and proud in my small fist, fluttered like an afterthought. "Hold it higher, darling," Mom murmured. But she wasn't talking to me. She never was. That day, I learned a quiet truth. Love in our house was a spotlight, and it only ever shone in one direction. I grew up in the shadows of that light. Sophia danced, cheered, collected medals the way other kids collected stickers. Every wall, every shelf, every conversation belonged to her victories. I stopped asking to be seen and started perfecting the art of disappearing without leaving the room. I became fluent in reading the temperature of my mother's smile, the exact tilt of my father's head that meant the subject was closed. Survival looked like silence, like swallowing the ache until it settled behind my ribs like a second heartbeat. Seattle saved me. 3 hours north felt like a different country when I moved there at 25. I rented a tiny apartment with windows tall enough to let the sky in, and for the first time, the air didn't taste like someone else's triumph. My days filled with water samples and data sets, quiet work that mattered even if no one clapped for it. And then there was Noah. He made coffee the way some people write love letters. Slow, deliberate, like every cup was meant only for me. He noticed when I was tired before I said a word. He remembered the way I took my tea when my own parents still asked if I wanted sugar. His family noticed me too. Margaret hugged like she meant it, arms wrapped all the way around until I believed I belonged there. Daniel asked questions about my research and actually listened to the answers. They didn't require performance. They simply made space. When Noah proposed on a misty June morning, his knee in the wet sand, the ring catching the pale light like a secret promise, I didn't hesitate. Yes felt like the easiest word I'd ever spoken. We planned a small wedding in a coastal chapel. Salt air and simple vows, the kind of day that felt like breathing. I designed the invitations myself, thick cream cardstock, my handwriting careful and hopeful. I mailed them signature acquired because I knew my family's talent for losing anything that didn't serve Sophia's narrative. I tracked every package like a heartbeat. Delivered, 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 for green check marks. I let myself hope. Then came the silence. No calls, no texts, not even a congratulations emoji in the family chat. The wedding came and went, wildflowers in my hair, Noah's hand steady in mine, Margaret crying happy tears in the front row. I kept waiting for the moment my mother would rush in late, flustered and apologetic. It never happened. I told myself stories, travel delays, lost mail, a surprise they were planning. But the stories grew thin, and something colder took their place. Noah found me one night staring at my phone, refreshing tracking pages that would never change. He didn't ask stupid questions. He simply pulled me against his chest and let me shake. The next morning, he made coffee stronger than usual and said, "Let's look closer." Together, we dug through the family email account. I still had access to an old relic, none of them thought to revoke. One announcement opened. Immediately deleted. Permanently erased. Timestamp. The afternoon the invitations arrived. My stomach dropped so hard I tasted metal. Noah's voice stayed gentle. "Who else uses that computer, Elise?" I already knew. I could see her so clearly, Sophia in the kitchen, flipping through mail the way she'd flipped through every part of my life. She didn't want visible. Gatekeeper, curator, queen. I pulled up the postal receipts I'd saved like evidence. For signatures, the looping, confident curl on every line was hers. My sister had stood there, pen in hand, and chosen to erase me. I sat back and stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Noah's hand settled warm on my shoulder, grounding me. "What do you want to do, love?" I didn't answer right away. Rage would have been cleaner. This felt older, sharper, like a bruise I'd carried since childhood. Finally splitting open. Thanksgiving was 3 weeks away. For a moment, I considered skipping it, letting them keep their perfect table and their perfect lies. But pretending had built this prison, brick by silent brick. If I stayed away, nothing changed. If I went, I carried the truth with me like a live wire. I spent those weeks quieter than usual. Noah watched me fold and unfold the receipts until the paper went soft at the edges. Some nights he pulled me into the shower just to hold me under the hot water until the shaking stopped. He never pushed, never filled my silence with empty comfort. He simply stayed, the way my blood family never learned how. The night before Thanksgiving, I lay awake tracing the ceiling with my eyes, while Noah slept beside me, one arm heavy across my waist like an anchor. I thought about every birthday they'd forgotten, every accomplishment they'd waved away, every time I'd smiled through the ache because causing waves would only prove I was difficult. I thought about the moment Sophia signed her name 4 times and decided my happiness was a threat. Something inside me settled, not into anger, but into a clear, cold certainty. Tomorrow, I would stop begging to be seen. I dressed carefully the next morning. Simple black sweater, hair down the way Noah liked it. He kissed me slow at the door, thumb brushing my cheek. "Whatever you need, I'm right here," he murmured against my lips. I nodded, throat too tight for words. The drive south felt longer than 3 hours. Rain slicked the highway, windshield wipers keeping time with my pulse. By the time I pulled into the familiar driveway, my hands were steady. Inside, the house smelled of turkey and performance. Sophia posed by the fireplace, Lucas adjusting a curl like they were shooting a magazine spread. Mom narrated every detail of Sophia's September wedding to anyone who'd listen, voice bright as polished silver. Dad poured wine with mechanical precision. Not one of them looked up when I walked in. I took my seat across from Sophia and waited. The script began exactly as expected. Praise for the dress, the venue, the guest list, the life Sophia had curated so perfectly. Then Mom tapped her glass with that bright, brittle smile. Sophia's wedding was glorious. "So, Elise, when's yours?" The table laughed, soft and practiced. Sophia stared at her plate. Too still. I set my fork down. 6 months ago, I said quietly. Every head turned. The laughter died like someone had flipped a switch. I let the silence stretch. Thick and deliberate. "You were invited," I added, and just like that, the air in the room changed. Word count, 1,500. The candle between us flickered once. Twice, as if it too had forgotten how to breathe. My mother's smile collapsed like wet paper. My father's wineglass froze halfway to his lips. Across the table, Sophia's knuckles went white around her fork, but she didn't look up. She didn't need to. I could feel the guilt radiating off her like heat from pavement in July. "Elise," Dad said carefully. "The way people speak when they're stepping around broken glass. We never received any invitations." I nodded, slow, like I'd been waiting my whole life to hear that exact lie. "I figured you'd say that." I reached into my bag. No rush, no drama. Just the soft scrape of my chair as I leaned forward and placed my phone in the center of the white tablecloth. The screen glowed soft and merciless against the candlelight. 4 pairs of eyes locked on it. Even Lucas, poor Lucas, who had married into this circus without reading the fine print. I tapped the first receipt open and turned the phone so everyone could see. Priority mail. Signature required. Delivered April 23rd. I zoomed in on the curling, unmistakable signature. Sophia. Ch. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. A small, wounded sound slipped out. Dad leaned closer. eyes narrowing as if proximity might change the ink. Lucas stared at his wife, like she'd grown a second head. Sophia finally lifted her gaze. For the first time in years, the mask slipped, and I saw the little girl who used to steal my crayons because hers were never quite bright enough. "It must have been a mistake," she said, voice thin. "I grab the mail sometimes. I probably set them aside and forgot for packages." I asked gently. "All addressed to Mom, Dad, you, and Grandma. All signed for on the same day." Silence. I swiped to the next screen, the postal tracking history. Green check marks marching down the page like soldiers. Then the final one. The family email log Noah had pulled for me at 2 in the morning while I cried into his shirt. One announcement opened from the desktop in the kitchen. Deleted forever 30 seconds later. Device ID, Sophia's laptop. Dad's jaw went rigid. "Sophia," he said. "Lo, did you delete your sister's wedding email?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. I might have clicked it by accident. Why does the log show it was open for 47 seconds? I asked. My voice stayed soft. The facts were doing the screaming. Mom shook her head frantically. "There has to be an explanation." "Sophia would never." "She did," I said. "And you let her." The words landed between us like a blade finally dropped. Lucas found his voice first. "Sophia, look at me." She couldn't. Her eyes were glassy, fixed on the napkin in her lap. I leaned back, feeling decades of swallowed hurt rise in my throat, not hot anymore, but strangely cool, clean. "You want to know why?" I asked the table, but I was really asking her. "Because my wedding was in June. Yours was in September. 6 quiet weeks where someone might have asked how I was doing. Where a photo of me in a simple dress might have lived on the fridge next to your engagement shoot. You couldn't stand it." Sophia flinched like I'd struck her. "That's not true," she whispered, but the crack in her voice betrayed her. I smiled. Small and sad and finally free. "It's exactly true. And the worst part? I would have shared the light. I always did." Mom reached for me across the table, fingers trembling. "Elise, honey, we didn't know. You never asked." I cut in, gentle but firm. "You never once called to say, 'How's the planning going?' Never wondered why I stopped posting. You saw what you wanted, Sophia's perfect year, uninterrupted." Dad's eyes filled. Real tears. I'd never seen them before. "If we'd known you would have come." I finished for him. "After missing every birthday after 16. After forgetting I graduated with honors. After letting me sit alone in waiting rooms for surgeries because Sophia had a recital. The room went so quiet I could hear the candle hiss. Sophia's shoulders started shaking. Not pretty crying. The ugly, ragged kind that comes when the story you've told yourself finally rips in half." Lucas reached for her hand. She yanked it away like his touch burned. "Everyone thinks Elise is so saintly," she suddenly spat, voice raw. "So quiet, so low maintenance. She never needs anything. She just exists. And somehow that makes me the villain for wanting more." There it was. The confession I'd waited 30 years to hear. I looked at her, really looked, and felt something inside me unclench. "You weren't the villain for wanting more," I said softly. "You were the villain for making sure I got less." Sobbed once, a broken sound. Dad stared at his plate like it might offer absolution. I stood. The chair scraped softly behind me. "I didn't come here tonight to punish you," I said. "I came to stop punishing myself. I'm done begging for a seat at a table that was never set for me." Sophia lifted her head. Mascara streaked. "Elise, please, that single please carried every fight we never had. Every apology she never gave. Every childhood night I cried into my pillow while she got the bigger room. I shook my head. I hope one day you learn what it feels like to be chosen first. I hope someone loves you enough to fight for you the way you never fought for me. I slipped my coat on, slow, deliberate. The weight of it felt like armor now. At the door, I paused, hand on the knob. You didn't miss my wedding, I said without turning around. You chose not to see it. And tonight, I choose not to let you unsee me anymore. The cold November air rushed in as I stepped outside. The door closed behind me with a soft, final click. Noah was waiting on the porch steps, breath fogging in the dark. One look at my face, and he opened his arms. I walked straight into them, buried my face in his neck, and let the last of the shaking pour out against his skin. He held me until the night went still. Later, back in Seattle, Margaret and Daniel folded me into their kitchen like I'd always belonged. No questions. Just warm pancakes and quiet understanding. Margaret kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're home now, sweetheart?" A week later, an email came from Sophia. Long, tear-stained, honest in ways I never expected. I read it twice. I didn't answer. Dad started calling every Sunday. Small talk at first, then real apologies, slow and clumsy. One day, a padded envelope arrived. No note. Inside was one of my original invitations, creased but intact, rescued from a box in the garage. I held it for a long time, then slipped it into a drawer. Mom never reached out. Some absences finally feel like answers. Now, when Noah pulls me close at night, his palm warm against my back. I no longer flinch at the word family. Because I know what it really means. It isn't the people who taught you to shrink. It's the ones who make room for you to grow. And for the first time in my life, I take up all the space I need, unapologetically, fiercely, fully seen. If this story touched something tender inside you, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Have you ever had to walk away to finally be found? Shara T read every single one. And if you need more stories of hearts learning how to choose themselves, subscribe. The next one might be the one that holds you together when everything else falls apart.